Salamence's Community Day is finally here. It's happening tomorrow, Saturday, April 13th, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. your time zone. Yeah, localized time, so that's pretty hype. And so that's to catch the Bagons, right? But you have until 7 p.m. your time zone to evolve it to get the special move. And what's the special move for Salamence here? It's Outrage. We predicted this. The stars told us Outrage was going to happen for Salamence. The one thing, if you are familiar with all these Dragon-type Pokemon, that's kind of holding Salamence back from greatness. Having Draco Meteor, not having Outrage. Well, guess what, fools? He's got Outrage now, so that's pretty hype. Another thing that's pretty hype about this event is that you can get the Shiny Salamence here, this nice green-looking boy. So if you're into the color green, maybe you're a Mountain Dew enthusiast. Got a Mountain Dew can-looking guy right here. Well, bam, there you go. Shiny Dragon, Green Dragon, not nearly as cool as Shiny Rayquaza, but hey man, it is a Shiny Dragon nonetheless. So, Outrage versus Draco Meteor. Why is Outrage a gain? Well, it's because Outrage is technically better than Draco Meteor, and I say technically better. Let's get into the stats here, and let's sort it by Dragons, and sort by DPS times DPE. So DPS, damage per second, and DPE is damage per energy. Multiplying these two things together gives you the best objective, like kind of comprehensive, in a vacuum idea of what charge moves are good. And you can see here, Draco Meteor is better than Outrage. DPS times DPE of 62.51 versus 62.06. So it is pretty narrow, but on paper, objectively, Draco Meteor is better. So why am I saying Outrage is better? Why am I saying that Draco Meteor is holding Salamence back? Why is Outrage so exciting if it's a weaker move? Well, there are two things that make Outrage better in practice, and they both stem from it being 50 energy. So starting out, you have the basic, which is Outrages come more frequently. So you can get one Outrage versus 0 Draco Meteors, right? And if you get one Draco Meteor, 2 Outrages, okay, maybe Draco Meteor is slightly better in that situation. But then if you get 3 Outrages to the 1 Draco Meteor, well then Outrage clearly beats it. So there is that basic scenario that we can all visualize. We've all had the situation where we're charging up to like a solar beam or something, and then we get wasted, and we're like, man, if that was like a grass knot or a power whip, then I would have been able to use the attack. But because it's single bar energy cost, we weren't able to. So Outrage has that working for it. Then the other thing that works out for Outrage, better than Draco Meteor in practice, is that it's another way of looking at energy waste, which is overflow energy. So as you're aware, maybe you're not aware, if you get hit by an attack in raid content, or gyms, I guess, PvE, you gain energy based on that damage, right? So if you have Outrage, you'll always use Outrage before you cap your energy at 100, right? So if you get hit by a big attack, then you get to turn all that energy into damage, or potentially turn all that energy into damage. When it comes to Draco Meteor, if you're at like 80, 90 energy, you get hit by the big attack, yes, it'll fill up your bar all the way, but there's a bunch of energy, potentially, beyond your bar that's now wasted. So that's energy that could be potential damage that you're not able to use now because your bar maxed out at 100, right? So you don't experience that frequently with Outrage, but you can experience that with Draco Meteor. So these two factors combined make Outrage better than Draco Meteor in practice. But there are situations where Draco Meteor is objectively better. It's actually pretty measurable. I cover this in more detail in the Draco Meteor Dragonite content that I did in the deep past. Link in the description. But based on some deep maths that Bioweapon did at the time, it turns out that Draco Meteor is better than Outrage 100% of the time, 10% of the time. So there's like 10% of scenarios where Draco Meteor will be better. But 90% of the time, Outrage is going to be the better move, right? Another deep math that Bioweapon did in the past, and we can't find any writing on it, so we're kind of guessing on what the results truly were. But what he found was, as far as the energy waste goes, if you faint after using Draco Meteor and you have less than 20 energy, then that's a gain. But the moment that you have more than 20 energy and you faint with Draco Meteor being your move, then Outrage would have been the better choice. So I don't have any writing to back that up, but when we were discussing Salamence here getting Outrage, that came up. So just more validation as far as Outrage being better than Draco Meteor. I mean, I don't really promote anybody using Draco Meteor Dragonites. Using Draco Meteor Salamences, not so hot. So you might be thinking, Ryan Swag, well, what are these situations where Draco Meteor is better than Outrage? Well, it'd be in a situation where very likely a single bar charge move from the opposing raid boss that you heavily resist. That way, you're able to survive long enough in the raid on average to get off multiple Draco Meteors, which would be the case scenario where that would happen. Well, when are you using Salamence to do that against a raid boss that you'd already want to use Salamence for? Well, we got a perfect example coming up, Latios. If you are curious, I do have Latios content on the way. I don't have it all prepped yet, but expect some swaggy graphs on it in the future. For now, we can just use Pokebattler, which is perfectly fine. So starting it by level 40, best friendship, you can see here that overall for the raid, Outrage is the better attack. So you're like, okay, Ryan Swag, why'd you bring us to Latios? Well, if you take a look at Solar Beam, an attack that Salamence, being a Dragon Flying type, doubly resists, and also being a single bar charge move, click on that boy. What has changed? Oh my gosh, Draco Meteor, the better attack. Yeah, so this is the kind of situation that has to play off to make Draco Meteor better. But you will find that against Solar Beam, 100% of the time, Draco Meteor will be the better attack, unless you've got like a severely underleveled Salamence. As far as the details on how underleveled you have to be for Draco Meteor to stop being the objectively best Solar Beam attack, well, that's some content you can expect from me in the future. Near future with my Latios content that I'm developing. And you will notice down over here, Dragonite still using Outrage. Why is that? Well, I've got two explanations for that. I don't know which one it truly is. So once again, when I do my Latios content, maybe subscribe to SwagTips so you can find out these crazy details, right? When I do my Latios content, I'll cover that as well. But two possibilities. Possibility A, Dragonite is more tanky than Salamence, and because of that, perhaps it's surviving even longer enough where it gets off like the extra Outrage, making Outrage better on average than Draco Meteor. Reality 2 could be that because Dragonite has a higher defense stat than Salamence, it's not able to get to Draco Meteor as early as Salamence is, and then it gets hit by the Solar Beam, so then you've got the energy waste, which wouldn't happen with Outrage. That's another reality. Once again, because it is a single bar charge move that's heavily resisted, and Draco Meteor, single bar charge move, it could also be very bulk point dependent, so the amount of damage your Pokemon can survive. So yeah, more details on that when I develop my Latios content more, but for now, Solar Beam Latios, good time to whip out Draco Meteor. Even with all of these benefits afforded to Salamence, it's still living in Rayquaza's shadow, still can't meet its power, right? Yeah, Rayquaza, number one, and you're going to find out that that's going to be the same situation for generations to come here. All right, so here's a nice little chart from the comprehensive DPS TDO spreadsheet sorted by DPS of our current dragons in the game. And you can see that objectively, on paper, on average, Rayquaza is still better than the Outrage Salamence. But you will also notice that Rayquaza, you know, it's only like a what, 0.4 DPS difference. So Salamence basically on par with Rayquaza if you think about it. If you look at the true numbers of the Latios raid, for example, both their Dragon Tails are doing 21 damage per hit. So what's the big deal there? It's same damage, right? And then when you look at their Outrages, objectively, on paper, I believe Rayquaza's is only doing 4 more damage. Now, of course, this is level 40 with perfect IVs, keeping the situation even. So yeah, so it's like what, 4 more damage per Outrage, and you're only getting like 3 or 4 Outrages in per Rayquaza and Salamence before they go down on average. So what's the big deal there? I gotta tell you guys, there really isn't. Although Rayquaza will be a bit superior more often than Salamence is. Basically, Rayquaza has a higher attack stat, so there will be raids where Rayquaza will be able to hit a breakpoint for its Dragon Tail damage that Salamence doesn't hit, and because of that, Rayquaza will always be a bit better than Salamence. I mean, you always have that 4 more damage on your Outrages too to consider, right? So Salamence will be in Rayquaza's shadow. Rayquaza is still the champion Dragon-type Pokemon, so if you maxed out like 8 of them or something, well, then no concerns there about your investments being squandered. Salamence, still number 2, but it's a really good number 2. So if you don't have maxed out Rayquazas, well then heck yeah. Me personally, I only have one maxed out Ray, and I have 3 raiding Dragonites that are pretty up to snuff, so I'd say my raid squad would definitely benefit from having 1 or 2 maxed out Salamences. Good budget option, we get them in mass. And if you want another way to, I guess, to optimize your Salamences, probably very obvious to a lot of you guys, is during that 1 hour window, after 6, before 7, yeah, just trade your Salamences with your friends and then try to get the lucky. And then it costs even less Stardust to max out a Salamence. So that's pretty cool, right? But yeah, number 2, budget option. Don't have to blow a bunch of rare candy and Stardust trying to max out like a level 20 raid dragon that you got, right? Another cool thing about Salamence is generations to come, right? Yeah, here's a look at the future. Alright, so here's a little sneak peek at Gen 5 Pokemon with ideal movesets, so all Dragon Tail Outrage, right? And the only thing that Salamence really has to fear, power creeping it, like directly in terms of DPS, if it gets the right moveset, is Haxorus. Haxorus is a powerful dragon type Pokemon. Single dragon, so it's not dragon flying, which could work out to its benefit. But realistically, what? Now we got 18.39 versus 18.27. Like, come on, man. Like, who really cares? You know what I mean? Like, oh no, we got power creep. By then, we might have different dragon type charge moves to play with, which could alter the game in a way. But yeah, Haxorus might be creeping on Salamence in Gen 5. Probably not. And when will it power creep on Salamence? I don't know, man. We don't even have Garchomp yet. Gen 4 Pokemon. Where is it, Niantic? Why are you keeping Cynthia's favorite little boy away from us? If you don't know who Cynthia is, it's an Elite 4 person. Everyone has fond memories of losing to her Garchomp. So it's like a pretty big fan favorite of the franchise. Where is he? Right? So then when Haxorus comes out, are we going to have access to Haxorus right away? I don't know. And it's only slightly better, so I'm not too worried about it. Now, there's another form of power creep that could be coming in, which is, Palkia, Dialga. They could get Outrage, right? Did a chart on that. Yeah, even if they do. Even if Latios gets Outrage, right? Yeah, definitely not threatening the Salamence too much. So, like, they're getting close. Palkia, 18.139. Watch out, Salamence. One thing that you guys might get nitpicky about is this is the comprehensive DPS TDO spreadsheet. Palkia should have like a higher attack stat than Salamence, so you might be thinking, why is Palkia behind him in DPS? Well, the reason is because of the way the formula is. Palkia has more defense. Because it has more defense, it gets less energy from damage, and because of that, that influences its comprehensive DPS. So overall, if Palkia got Outrage, it'd probably be as good, if not slightly better than Salamence. So, oh no. And it's also tankier, so that's also something to consider. But Palkia doesn't have Outrage, does it? No. And when will Palkia get Outrage? I don't know. Maybe it never will get Outrage. So I think Salamence is pretty secured. And the fact that you can trade for the lucky, it's got the whole community day to just amp up your candy and getting good Salamences. And because Shiny Salamence looks like a Mountain Dew can, Palkia, I'm not going to tell you what Palkia looks like. I think Salamence is pretty safe, to be honest. Now, once again, in all these situations, you're seeing that Salamence is behind the Rayquaza. But what if I told you there is a way Salamence could beat out the Rayquaza in performance by spending 75,000 Stardust and also getting the right matchup situation? Yeah, what I'm talking about here is going double Dragon, double Charge move. If you want the best of both worlds, like 10% of the situations say Draco Meteor will be better, right? Well, what if you could have 100% of the situations of Salamence being a god? And you can do that for 75,000 Stardust, unlocking Salamence's second charge move, and then spending the TMs to make it Draco Meteor. Let me break it down for you guys. You don't have to pay attention to all the numbers on the screen here, but just to reiterate once again, against Latios, Salamence's fast move, 21. Rayquaza's fast move, 21. Their outrages, Salamence, 150. Rayquaza, 154. So they're basically the same in performance, right? But, you know, 154, that is 4 more damage, right? So at the very best, Salamence will be on par with Rayquaza, if not ever so slightly behind. But combining Draco Meteor with Outrage could allow you to get ahead of Rayquaza more often than what you currently could. So this is the basic breakdown of what's going on. This is purely Salamence, comparing Draco Meteor to Outrage to a mixed combination attack pattern, right? So Draco Meteor followed by Outrage. This is not using any energy gains from damage. This is just raw Dragon Tail energy gains with your charge move against Latios as like the defense Pokemon that's taken all these hits, right? But it's not hitting you back. So this is an altered situation. It's not the reality, but the example is the same, right? The base idea, constant. And what you'll see here is Outrage happens, one Outrage, very clearly better than one Draco Meteor. I mean, obvious, right? And what you find is because of the timing, two Outrages actually beats out one Draco Meteor just because it happens later, right? So it happens in between, so it comes more frequently. It's not like Outrage versus Draco Meteor. It's Outrage, and then there's a Draco Meteor, then there's an Outrage, right? So two Outrages, technically better than a single Draco Meteor because of the pacing. But then when you get down to here, you'll see that Draco Meteor takes over again, and then kind of takes over for the remainder of the fight, even when confronted with the third Outrage. This is how it plays out in practice in this vacuum scenario. But basic idea is that they're neck and neck. They're constantly trading which one is better. But when you come over here, you'll see Draco Meteor, so you get the benefit. You get the pull ahead with the Draco Meteor, but then you get the pull even further ahead with the Outrage, which is awesome. And then right around this time where I cut off, you could get off another Outrage if it presented itself. But at this point in the fight, 30 seconds have passed. I don't expect Salamence to survive more than like 25 seconds in any given raid, so that doesn't apply. And if you're wondering, well, then how does he get to the 30 seconds? Well, this isn't including energy gains from damage. So you'd be able to get off the second Draco Meteor and the third Outrage earlier than presented here in practice, right? But if you want a graphical way to look at this, don't look at this graph. Look at this graph. Yeah, so I truncated the DPS, so we're starting at 20, and I'm truncating the time, which is 10, just so I can cut a bunch of dead white space out. The basic idea is here's the DPS spike from your first Outrage. Here's the DPS spike from your first Draco Meteor. If you're wondering, Mix Ments and DM Ments are both this line. It's just the way that Google Sheets does it, is it's covered up by the yellow line. So yellow and red are here. And then bam, you get the next DPS spike from the Outrage. And then normally you'd have to wait all of this time to get to the next Draco Meteor. You know, you're waiting for that Draco Meteor, right? If you have the mixed moveset, if you have the ability to use Outrage, and you think you're not going to live to that next Draco Meteor, but you can use that next Outrage, well then bam, there you go. You bridge the gap. Mixed moveset. And then with the mixed moveset, you always have the option to hold out for the next Draco Meteor so you can have an even bigger DPS spike. Or if you don't think Draco Meteor is going to work out at all to begin with, then you can just whip out the Outrages. Once again, this is a vacuum scenario. It's not including damage from the raid boss. It's not including true fainting time. It's not including overflow energy. To be honest, like realistically, maybe like a little bit because of the Dragon Tail overflow, but yeah. So there will be situations where using back-to-back Outrages, more ideal, but by spending 75,000 Stardust on your favorite Salamence, or favorite Salamences, plural, well, bam, there you go, man. Now you got the best of both worlds. And with this combination, Salamence can actually be better than Rayquaza in raid content more frequently, because the only time Rayquaza is going to be better than Salamence is when they're both using just Outrage. But if Salamence can get ahead with Draco Meteor, or get ahead with Draco Meteor and Outrage, well, now it can. So hope that's a little bit of an eye-opener for you guys. All these hater potatoes saying that our Green Dragon, our shiny Green Dragon, isn't better than the OG Green Dragon. Well, get learned up, fools. Mountain Dew Man beats like frickin' Forest Green Boy. Yeah. So that's the basic of Salamence Community Day. If you want more details about the event, you can check out the guide on GamePress. The GamePress guide does cover most of the information I covered in this video. When it comes to the comparison of Draco Meteor and Outrage, definitely not as much in depth. And I plan on doing an article for Game Press on that very topic over the weekend. I don't know when it'll be released, probably like Monday or Tuesday, so you can stay vigilant for that. If you got any questions on this content, then comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you are curious about PvP, trainer battles, like Salamence in those, yeah, he sucks, even with Outrage. Like, it is impossible for Salamence to be good in PvP. The way things are right now, it's just never going to happen. So don't worry about it. Even in Master League, not going to happen. There is just way too much holding Salamence back in that respect. Like, too much. So it's not even worth getting into. The basic is it doesn't have Dragon Breath. And then it has Outrage, and all of its charge moves cost too much, right? It doesn't have Dragon Claw. It doesn't have Dragon Breath. And even if it did have Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw, there are far better Pokemon to utilize those combinations, such as Giratina and Legacy Dragonite. I know Legacy Dragonite, but we got Giratina, which isn't exactly Legacy, but it is a higher investment. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we don't have Dragon Breath or Dragon Claw on Salamence to begin with. So yeah, sucks in PvP, so reality, right? Oh yeah, and if you haven't subscribed to SwagTips already, well then subscribe to SwagTips today.